Welcome to Serene Tales, the podcast where we listen, relax, and drift off to sleep. I'm your host, Tony, and tonight, we'll journey under the stars with the story of a stargazer named Myron. It's a tale of wonder, discovery, and learning to appreciate the beauty around us. Inspired by one of Aesop's timeless fables. So, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the peaceful rhythm of the story carry you into the night. Let's begin. In a quiet, secluded corner of ancient Anatolia, nestled between rolling hills and the endless sea, there lived a man named Myron. Myron was no ordinary villager. He was a stargazer, captivated by the boundless expanse of the heavens, while others slept soundly through the cool nights. Myron wandered beneath the velvet canopy of stars, his head tilted upward, his thoughts far from the earth. By day, Myron's modest white-walled home stood quietly on the outskirts of the village. Its simple interior mirrored his life, uncluttered, with only a bed, a desk, and stacks of parchment filled with intricate star charts. The villagers thought of Myron as peculiar, some even calling him eccentric. But to Myron, they simply didn't understand. The mysteries of the cosmos called to him like a siren song, and he was powerless to resist. One evening, as twilight descended, Myron packed his satchel, a water skin, parchment, and a stub of charcoal, and set off into the hills. The village below glimmered faintly with the last of the sun's rays, its olive trees swaying in the gentle breeze. The stars began to emerge, shy at first, like dancers stepping onto a stage. Myron felt a familiar thrill. Tonight, he whispered to himself, I'll uncover something extraordinary. As he reached a clearing, he paused and spread his blanket across the dew-kissed grass. Above him, constellations unfurled their splendor. His eyes traced the Great Bear, Orion's Belt, and the Seven Sisters. He muttered their names softly, as if reciting an ancient incantation. Suddenly, a voice broke the stillness. You spend so much time staring up, Myron. Don't you worry about tripping over your own feet? Startled, Myron turned. It was Serene, his neighbor. She carried a lantern, its warm glow softening her sharp features. Serene, Myron said, a bit embarrassed. I didn't hear you approach. Clearly, she teased. You're too busy chasing stars. He chuckled. Someone has to. They're the keys to understanding our world. Serene shook her head, though her lips curved into a small smile. You'll break your neck one day, wandering like that. That same night, Myron ventured further than usual, his eyes fixed on the celestial map above. He didn't notice the gnarled root jutting out from the earth until it was too late. He stumbled, his body crashing to the ground. Groaning, he sat up and rubbed his ankle. From behind, a familiar laugh rang out. "I warned you." Serene stepped forward, offering a hand. "Perhaps next time, you'll look where you're going." Reluctantly, Myron accepted her help. "Perhaps," he admitted, brushing dirt from his robes. Serene sighed. "Myron, the stars are beautiful, but so is everything around you. When's the last time you stopped to notice?" Myron opened his mouth to argue but found no words. He glanced around, at the soft rustling of leaves, the silvery sheen of moonlight on the grass, the distant hum of crickets. For the first time in a long while, he truly saw his surroundings. The next morning, Myron awoke to an unfamiliar sensation, the warmth of sunlight streaming through his window. He had stayed up late sketching constellations and had forgotten to close the shutters. Squinting against the brightness, he rose and stepped outside. The village was alive with activity. Farmers carried baskets of ripe figs, fishermen unloaded their morning catch, and children raced through the square, their laughter echoing in the air. "Myron," called a voice. It was Serene again, standing near a stall. "Come, have breakfast with us." Myron hesitated. He couldn't remember the last time he had shared a meal with anyone. "All right," he said finally, surprising even himself. The table was laid with warm bread, soft cheeses, and sweet honey. Selene's younger brother poured thick coffee into clay mugs, the aroma rich and inviting. As Myron took a bite, he closed his eyes, savoring the crunch of the crust and the creamy tang of the cheese. "I'd forgotten how good this is," he admitted. Serene grinned. "There's more to life than the stars, Myron." Over the following days, Myron allowed himself to be drawn into the rhythm of the village. Serene introduced him to the fruit seller, who handed him a slice of the ripest orange he had ever tasted. The gardener invited him to see her blooming irises, their deep purple petals shimmering like jewels in the sunlight. Even the temple, a place Myron had only visited at night, took on new life in the daytime. The marble columns gleamed under the sun, and the cool shade beneath them felt like a sanctuary. Bit by bit, Myron began to understand what he had been missing. The earth, he realized, held wonders just as profound as the stars. The story you've provided is rich in imagery and offers a wonderful starting point. To transform it into a more captivating, detailed, and unique version, I'll build on the existing narrative, weaving in dialogue, more vivid descriptions, and plot elements to enhance the reader's connection. Below, I will begin rewriting and expanding the story step by step. If this approach suits you, I will continue until the story is fully realized. Let me know if you'd prefer adjustments. The Stargazer's Awakening. In a quiet, secluded corner of ancient Anatolia, nestled between rolling hills and the endless sea, there lived a man named Myron. Myron was no ordinary villager, he was a stargazer, captivated by the boundless expanse of the heavens. While others slept soundly through the cool nights, Myron wandered beneath the velvet canopy of stars, his head tilted upward, his thoughts far from the earth. By day, Myron's modest white-walled home stood quietly on the outskirts of the village. Its simple interior mirrored his life, uncluttered, with only a bed, a desk, and stacks of parchment filled with intricate star charts. The villagers thought of Myron as peculiar, some even calling him eccentric. But to Myron, they simply didn't understand. The mysteries of the cosmos called to him like a siren song, and he was powerless to resist the call of the stars. One evening, as twilight descended, Myron packed his satchel, a water skin, parchment, and a stub of charcoal, and set off into the hills. The village below glimmered faintly with the last of the sun's rays, its olive trees swaying in the gentle breeze. The stars began to emerge, shy at first, like dancers stepping onto a stage. Myron felt a familiar thrill. Tonight, he whispered to himself, I'll uncover something extraordinary. As he reached a clearing, he paused and spread his blanket across the dew-kissed grass. Above him, constellations unfurled their splendor. His eyes traced the Great Bear, Orion's Belt, and the Seven Sisters. He muttered their names softly, as if reciting an ancient incantation. Suddenly, a voice broke the stillness. You spend so much time staring up, Myron. Don't you worry about tripping over your own feet? Startled, Myron turned. It was Serene, his neighbor. She carried a lantern, its warm glow softening her sharp features. Serene, Myron said, a bit embarrassed. I didn't hear you approach. Clearly, she teased. You're too busy chasing stars. He chuckled. Someone has to. They're the keys to understanding our world. Serene shook her head, though her lips curved into a small smile. You'll break your neck one day. Wandering like that. An accident and a lesson. That same night, Myron ventured further than usual, his eyes fixed on the celestial map above. He didn't notice the gnarled root jutting out from the earth until it was too late. He stumbled, his body crashing to the ground. Groaning, he sat up and rubbed his ankle. From behind, a familiar laugh rang out. I warned you. Serene stepped forward, offering a hand. Perhaps next time, you'll look where you're going. Reluctantly, Myron accepted her help. Perhaps, he admitted, brushing dirt from his robes. Serene sighed. Myron, The stars are beautiful. But so is everything around you. When's the last time you stopped to notice? Myron opened his mouth to argue but found no words. He glanced around, at the soft rustling of leaves, the silvery sheen of moonlight on the grass, the distant hum of crickets. For the first time in a long while, he truly saw his surroundings. An invitation to the earth. The next morning, Myron awoke to an unfamiliar sensation, the warmth of sunlight streaming through his window. He had stayed up late sketching constellations and had forgotten to close the shutters. Squinting against the brightness, he rose and stepped outside. The village was alive with activity. Farmers carried baskets of ripe figs, fishermen unloaded their morning catch, and children raced through the square, their laughter echoing in the air. "Myron," called a voice. It was Serene again, standing near a stall. "Come, have breakfast with us." Myron hesitated. He couldn't remember the last time he had shared a meal with anyone. "All right," he said finally, surprising even himself. The table was laid with warm bread, soft cheeses, and sweet honey. Selene's younger brother poured thick coffee into clay mugs, the aroma rich and inviting. As Myron took a bite, he closed his eyes, savoring the crunch of the crust and the creamy tang of the cheese. "I'd forgotten how good this is," he admitted. Serene grinned. "There's more to life than the stars." Myron. Discovering the village. Over the following days, Myron allowed himself to be drawn into the rhythm of the village. Serene introduced him to the fruit seller, who handed him a slice of the ripest orange he had ever tasted. The gardener invited him to see her blooming irises, their deep purple petals shimmering like jewels in the sunlight. Even the temple, a place Myron had only visited at night, took on new life in the daytime. The marble columns gleamed under the sun, and the cool shade beneath them felt like a sanctuary. Bit by bit, Myron began to understand what he had been missing. The earth, he realized, held wonders just as profound as the stars. A celebration under the stars. One evening, the villagers invited Myron to a feast atop the hill. They carried baskets of food and jugs of wine, spreading blankets on the grass. Myron sat among them, listening to their stories and laughter. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky transformed. Stars began to appear. One by one, Myron pointed them out to the others, his passion igniting their curiosity. "That one," he said, gesturing to a cluster of stars, "is Andromeda, the chained maiden. And over there, Cassiopeia, her proud mother." The villagers listened intently, their faces lit with wonder. For the first time, Myron felt truly connected to them. That night, as Myron lay on his blanket beneath the stars, he felt a profound sense of peace. The heavens were still his greatest love. But now he saw their beauty reflected in the world around him. Selene's words echoed in his mind. There's more to life than the stars. Yes, he thought. But the stars, like the earth, are part of the same grand design. And with that thought, Myron closed his eyes. The gentle hum of the village and the quiet brilliance of the cosmos lulling him to sleep. The next morning, Myron woke early. A rare occurrence for him. The events of the past few days had stirred something in him, a quiet curiosity about the life he had so often ignored. The sun was rising, casting warm golden rays over the hills and rooftops of the village. A gentle breeze carried the scent of freshly baked bread and blooming flowers. As he stepped outside, Myron was greeted by Selene, who was carrying a basket of herbs. "Good morning, Stargazer," she said with a grin. "Are you finally becoming one of us daywalkers?" Myron laughed softly. "Perhaps. The stars will forgive me for borrowing a little time from them." Selene handed him a sprig of rosemary. "Come with me to the market. I promise it's more exciting than it seems." Intrigued, Myron followed her down the cobblestone path to the bustling village square. The market was alive with color and sound. Stalls overflowed with vibrant fruits, glistening fish, and fragrant spices. Merchants called out their wares, and children darted between the stalls, their laughter echoing in the warm air. Myron hesitated, overwhelmed by the sensory feast. Selene noticed and nudged him gently. "Don't just stand there. Try something." A vendor offered him a figure, its skin deep purple and slightly wrinkled. Myron took a bite, the sweetness exploding on his tongue. "It's incredible," he admitted, his eyes widening. Selene laughed. "See? The earth has its own treasures, Myron. You just have to look for them." Over the next few weeks, Myron began to spend more time exploring the village and its surroundings. He visited the olive groves, where farmers pressed the golden oil he had taken for granted. He helped the fishermen mend their nets, his fingers clumsy but his heart full. And he spent hours in the gardens, marveling at the delicate beauty of flowers he had never noticed before. One afternoon, Selene took him to a small grove hidden behind the temple of Apollo. "This," she said, spreading her arms wide, "is my favorite place in the village." The grove was filled with wildflowers of every color, their petals dancing in the gentle breeze. A small stream meandered through the clearing, its water sparkling in the sunlight. Birds flitted between the trees, their songs filling the air. Myron was silent for a moment, taking it all in. "It's beautiful," he said finally. "I've spent so much time looking up. I never realized what I was missing down here." Selene smiled. "It's not about choosing one over the other, Myron. The stars and the earth are both part of the same story. You just have to find the balance. One evening, the villagers decided to take Myron on a special journey. They gathered at the edge of the village, carrying lanterns and baskets of food. Serene handed Myron a small flask of wine. "We're going to the peak," she said, her eyes shining with excitement. The group set off, their laughter echoing in the night. The path wound through the hills, growing steeper as they climbed. Myron, unaccustomed to such exertion, stumbled more than once. But Serene was always there, offering a steady hand. When they reached the summit, the view took Myron's breath away. The village lay far below, its lights twinkling like a reflection of the stars above. The sea stretched out to the horizon, a vast, dark expanse that seemed to merge with the sky. The villagers spread out their blankets and unpacked their baskets. They shared roasted meats, fresh bread, and honey-drenched fruits, their voices a symphony of laughter and conversation. Myron sat quietly, savoring each bite and listening to the stories around him. As the sky darkened, the stars began to emerge. Myron pointed out constellations to the villagers, his voice filled with passion. "That one," he said, gesturing to a cluster of stars, "is Perseus, the hero. And over there is Andromeda, his beloved." The villagers listened with rapt attention, their eyes shining with wonder. For the first time, Myron felt truly connected to them. He wasn't just a solitary stargazer anymore, he was part of something larger. That night, as Myron lay on his blanket, staring up at the heavens, he noticed something unusual, a faint, glowing streak across the sky. It was unlike anything he had seen before. His heart raced. Could it be a comet? A new star? "Serene," he whispered, nudging her awake. "Look at that." She opened her eyes and followed his gaze. "What is it?" "I don't know," Myron admitted, his voice trembling with excitement. "But I'm going to find out." The villagers gathered around, their curiosity piqued. Myron explained his theories, his hands gesturing animatedly. For the first time, they saw not just the stars, but the passion that burned within him. "Maybe," Serene said with a smile, "the stars wanted you to share this moment with us." The days that followed were different for Myron. He began to strike a delicate balance between the stars above and the life around him. He still spent his nights charting constellations, but now he also made time for the village and its people. Each day brought new experiences and a deeper understanding of the world he had long ignored. Serene often accompanied him on his nightly walks. "It's safer this way," she teased, carrying a lantern to light their path. "I'd hate for you to trip over another route." Myron chuckled. "I'm starting to think you just enjoy the stars as much as I do." Serene grinned. "Perhaps. but I also enjoy the company. Their conversations were lively, often shifting from light-hearted banter to philosophical musings about the universe. Selene's practical view of life grounded Myron, while his boundless curiosity inspired her. They were, in many ways, opposites. Yet their connection grew stronger with each passing night. One evening, as the village prepared for a festival honoring Apollo, Myron noticed something extraordinary through his telescope. The faint streak of light he had spotted days earlier had grown brighter and more defined. It moved slowly across the heavens, its tail shimmering like a celestial banner. "It's a comet," he whispered, his voice trembling with awe. The next morning, he shared the news with Selene and the village elders. "A comet is passing through our skies," he explained, his excitement contagious. "It's a rare event. Something that happens perhaps once in a lifetime." The villagers, who had always regarded Myron's passion with a mix of amusement and bewilderment, now looked at him with newfound respect. His knowledge of the stars, once seen as eccentric, was now a source of wonder. As the night of the comet's peak approached, the village buzzed with anticipation. Myron organized a gathering on the hilltop, inviting everyone to witness the celestial event. Selene helped him prepare, spreading blankets and arranging lanterns to guide the way. When the night finally arrived, the hill was alive with activity. Families brought baskets of food. Children ran laughing through the grass, and musicians played soft melodies on lyres and flutes. Myron stood at the center, his telescope trained on the sky. "There it is," he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "The comet." All eyes turned upward. Gasps of amazement rippled through the crowd as the comet streaked across the heavens, its brilliance lighting up the night. "It's beautiful," Selene murmured, standing beside Myron. "It's like a piece of the heavens has come to visit us." Myron nodded, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. For the first time, he felt truly connected to the people around him. The stars were no longer just his passion, they were a bridge between him and the village. In the weeks that followed, Myron's life transformed. Villagers began seeking him out, asking about the stars and their meanings. He held gatherings in the temple, sharing stories of the constellations and their ties to mythology. Children sat at his feet, their eyes wide with wonder as he described the gods and heroes etched into the night sky. One evening, a young boy approached him after a lecture. "Do you think I could be an astronomer like you one day?" the boy asked, his voice filled with hope. Myron smiled, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "The stars belong to everyone," he said. "If you're willing to look up and dream, then yes, you can be anything you wish." As the years passed, Myron became a beloved figure in the village. His once solitary life was now filled with friendships, laughter, and purpose. Serene remained his closest companion, their bond deepening into something neither could have anticipated. One day, as they stood on the hilltop watching the sunset, Serene turned to him. "Do you ever regret leaving the stars for us?" she asked softly. Myron shook his head. "I never left them," he said. "I just found a way to bring them closer." Serene smiled, her eyes shining with warmth. "You've given us a gift, Myron. You've shown us that the stars and the earth are connected, just like we are." Myron gazed at her, his heart full. For the first time, he realized that his greatest discovery wasn't a constellation or a comet, it was the life he had built with the people around him. On the night of his final lecture, the entire village gathered at the Temple of Apollo. Myron, now older but still filled with the same passion, stood before them one last time. "The stars have always guided us," he began, his voice steady and strong. "They remind us of our place in the universe, small, yet significant. But they also teach us to look around, to see the beauty and wonder in the world right here." As he spoke, the first stars appeared in the sky, twinkling like distant lanterns. Myron raised his hand, pointing to the constellations he had spent a lifetime studying. "And so," he concluded, "let us remember that the stars above and the earth below are both gifts to cherish. One is not complete without the other." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing into the night. Myron smiled, his heart swelling with pride and peace. That night, as he lay beneath the stars, Myron closed his eyes, a contented smile on his face. The heavens stretched endlessly above him, a tapestry of light and mystery. And as he drifted off to sleep, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had found his place in the universe, not just among the stars, but also on the earth he had come to love. Time moved on, and Myron's passion for the stars never waned. But now it was shared with a growing group of villagers who had come to appreciate the night sky in ways they never had before. Among them was Lycaon, a spirited boy who had shown an extraordinary eagerness to learn. He often followed Myron on his nightly walks, asking questions that surprised even the seasoned stargazer. "Why do the stars move, Myron?" Lycaon asked one evening as they climbed the hill overlooking the village. "They don't move." "Not really," Myron explained, his voice patient. "It's the earth that spins, carrying us through the heavens. But it feels like they're dancing, doesn't it?" Lycaon's eyes widened. "Dancing stars. I like that." Myron chuckled. "A poetic way of thinking. Young one, perhaps you'll write about the stars someday." One day, Lycaon approached Myron with an idea. "I want to see the stars from the mountain peak," he said, pointing to the highest summit visible from the village. "I bet they look different up there." Myron hesitated. The journey to the peak was treacherous, even for someone accustomed to climbing hills at night. But Lycaon's enthusiasm was infectious. "Very well," Myron agreed. "But we'll need a small group to help. It's not safe to go alone." Serene, who had overheard their conversation, immediately volunteered. "You can't stop me from joining," she said with a grin. "Someone has to keep you two from walking off a cliff." A few others joined the expedition, including Aria, the village's skilled herbalist, and Damos, a burly fisherman whose strength would be invaluable for the climb. Together, they gathered supplies, water skins, dried meats, and blankets to shield against the mountain's chilly nights. The group set out at dawn, their spirits high. The path wound through dense forests, where sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground. Birds sang from the treetops, and the air was filled with the earthy scent of moss and pine. As they climbed higher, the forest thinned, replaced by rocky terrain. The path grew steeper, and the group moved more slowly. Damos took the lead, clearing loose stones from their way, while Serene kept a watchful eye on Lycaon, who darted ahead with boundless energy. By the time they reached a plateau near the summit, the sun was beginning to set. The group spread their blankets and shared a simple meal, their laughter echoing across the mountainside. "Look!" Lycaon exclaimed, pointing to the horizon. "The stars are coming out." Everyone turned their gaze skyward. One by one, the stars emerged, their light growing stronger as the last rays of the sun faded. Myron felt a familiar thrill. But this time, it was accompanied by a deep sense of connection. He wasn't alone in his wonder anymore. As the night deepened, a spectacular sight unfolded. A meteor shower lit up the sky, streaks of light racing across the heavens. The group gasped in amazement, their faces illuminated by the celestial display. "It's like the gods are celebrating with us," Serene whispered, her voice filled with awe. Lycaon clutched Myron's arm. "Is this what you see every night?" he asked, his voice trembling with excitement. Myron shook his head. "Not every night. This is a rare gift." They watched in silence, the meteors painting the sky with trails of light. Myron felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the beauty above, but for the people around him who had come to share in it. The next morning, the group awoke to the first light of dawn. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold, the air crisp and cool. As they prepared to descend, Lycaon wandered away from the camp, his curiosity leading him to a cluster of rocks. "Myron, come look at this," he called. Myron and the others hurried over to find Lycaon crouched beside a strange marking on the ground. It was a circular pattern carved into the stone, filled with symbols that none of them recognized. "What do you think it is?" Selene asked. Her brow furrowed. Myron studied the carving, his fingers tracing the intricate design. It's ancient, he said. Perhaps a message left by those who came before us, a map, a story, or even a prayer to the stars. Arya knelt beside him, her eyes scanning the symbols. It looks like it's aligned with the constellations. See how the points match the stars? Myron's mind raced. Could this be evidence of a long-forgotten civilization that had shared his love for the heavens? The thought filled him with excitement and a sense of purpose. We need to document this, he said. It's too important to leave undiscovered. When they returned to the village, Myron couldn't contain his excitement. He shared the discovery with the elders, who agreed to preserve the site and explore its significance. The villagers, inspired by the tale, began to see their land in a new light. They realized that the connection between the earth and the stars wasn't just a story, it was part of their heritage. Over time, the village became known as a place of learning and exploration. Travelers from far and wide came to hear Myron's lectures and see the ancient carving on the mountain. Myron, once the solitary stargazer, now found himself at the center of a thriving community of seekers and dreamers. Years passed, and Myron grew older. His hair turned silver, and his steps slowed. But his love for the stars never faded. One evening, as he stood on the hilltop with Selene, he gazed at the night sky, a serene smile on his face. You've given us so much, Myron, Selene said, her voice soft. You've shown us the beauty of the universe and the beauty within ourselves. Myron took her hand, his eyes shining with gratitude. And you've shown me the beauty of companionship. Selene, the stars may be eternal, but it's the moments we share that truly matter. Not long after, Myron passed away peacefully in his sleep, beneath the stars he had loved so dearly. The villagers honored him with a grand celebration, lighting lanterns and releasing them into the night sky. As the lanterns floated upward, they joined the constellations, a fitting tribute to the man who had brought the heavens closer to earth. Myron's story didn't end with his passing. Lycan, now a young man, took up the mantle of stargazing, teaching others about the wonders of the cosmos. The village continued to thrive as a hub of knowledge and exploration, its people united by a shared love for the earth and the sky. And on clear nights, when the stars shone brightly, the villagers would gather on the hilltop, pointing out the constellations and sharing stories of Myron, the man who had shown them that the universe was not just above them but within them as well. Years after Myron's passing, the village had transformed into something extraordinary. What was once a quiet and unassuming place was now alive with curiosity and discovery. The hill where Myron had once walked alone became known as the Stargazer's Summit. And villagers, young and old, often gathered there to admire the night sky and tell stories of the constellations. Lycan, now a confident and knowledgeable teacher, led many of these gatherings. His once wide-eyed wonder had matured into a deep understanding of the cosmos. Yet his enthusiasm was as infectious as ever. His lessons blended the science he had learned from Myron with his own imaginative interpretations. "Do you see those stars over there?" Lycaon asked a group of children one evening, pointing to a cluster in the shape of a bow. "That's Sagittarius, the Archer. Some say he guards the Milky Way. But did you know that if you follow the stars in his bow, they lead to the center of our galaxy?" The children gasped in awe, their faces lit by the soft glow of lanterns. A little girl raised her hand. "What's a galaxy?" "Lycaon? It's like a family of stars," Lycaon explained, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Billions of them, all spinning together like a great celestial dance." The girl's eyes sparkled. "I want to see it someday." Lycaon smiled. "Maybe you will. The stars have a way of bringing dreams to life." One quiet morning, as Lycaon prepared his telescope for the night ahead, Aria, the herbalist, arrived at his door. She carried a parchment rolled tightly in her hands and wore an expression that was equal parts excitement and urgency. "Lycaon, you need to see this," she said, unrolling the parchment on his work table. It was a map of the mountains, marked with various landmarks, including the ancient carving they had discovered years earlier. "What is it?" Lycaon asked, leaning in. "I've been studying the symbols we found at the summit," Aria explained, tracing her finger over a series of markings. "They're not just random designs. I think they're pointing to something, a place further up the mountain." Lycaon's heart quickened. "Another site?" Aria nodded. "It's possible. The alignment of the symbols suggests there's something significant near the peak. But we'll need to go and see for ourselves." Lycaon wasted no time assembling a team for the journey. Serene, now a respected elder in the village, insisted on joining. "I may not be as young as I once was, but I'm not missing this," she said firmly. Damos, as strong as ever despite his graying hair, agreed to come as well. "You'll need someone to carry all those fancy instruments," he joked, gesturing to Lycaon's telescope and tools. The group set out at dawn, their spirits high. The climb was more challenging than any of them had anticipated. The air grew thinner as they ascended, and the rocky terrain demanded careful navigation. But they pressed on, driven by the promise of discovery. As they neared the peak, the path became treacherous. Loose stones gave way underfoot, and jagged cliffs loomed on either side. Lycaon led the way, his determination unwavering. Behind him, Serene paused to catch her breath, her cheeks flushed from the exertion. "You're sure this is worth it?" she called out, half teasing. Lycaon turned back, his face alight with excitement. If Myron were here, he wouldn't stop now. Neither will I. When they finally reached the summit, the group was greeted by a breathtaking view. The entire valley stretched out below them, its rivers and forests shimmering in the golden light of sunset. But it wasn't the view that held their attention, it was the massive stone structure partially hidden beneath overgrown vines. "It's a temple," Serene whispered, her voice filled with awe. They approached cautiously, pushing aside the tangled greenery to reveal an arched entrance carved with intricate patterns. The symbols matched those on the stone carving they had found years earlier. This must be what the markings pointed to, Arya said, her eyes wide. Inside, the air was cool and still. The walls were adorned with murals depicting constellations and celestial events. At the center of the chamber stood an ancient pedestal, upon which rested a polished obsidian sphere. Lycaon stepped forward, his breath catching in his throat. The sphere seemed to glow faintly, as if it held the light of the stars within it. "What do you think it is?" Damos asked, his deep voice reverent. "A star map," Lycaon murmured, running his fingers over the smooth surface. "An ancient tool for charting the heavens." Serene leaned closer. "Do you think Myron knew this was here?" Lycaon shook his head. "If he did, he never mentioned it. But this feels like his legacy. A reminder that there's always more to discover." The group spent the night at the temple, their lanterns casting flickering shadows on the walls. Lycaon carefully examined the sphere, noticing faint etchings that matched the constellations visible in the sky above. "This aligns perfectly with what we see tonight," he said, pointing to a cluster of stars engraved on the surface. "It's as if this sphere was meant to guide stargazers through the ages." Arya studied the murals, her keen eyes picking out details others might have missed. "These paintings tell a story," she said. "They speak of a time when the heavens and the earth were thought to be one, when the stars guided not just travelers but entire civilizations." As dawn broke, the group began their descent, carrying the sphere and their newfound knowledge back to the village. Word of their discovery spread quickly, and the temple became a pilgrimage site for those seeking to connect with the stars and their ancestors. Years later, the village thrived as a center of learning and exploration. The temple at the mountain's peak was preserved as a sacred site, and Lycaon became its steward, sharing the wisdom he had inherited from Myron and uncovering new mysteries with each passing year. Serene, now revered as a wise elder, often joined Lycaon on the hilltop, watching as the next generation of stargazers pointed out constellations and shared their dreams. "Myron would be proud," Serene said one evening, her voice soft as the stars began to fill the sky. Lycaon smiled, his gaze fixed on the heavens. "He taught us to look up, but he also taught us to look around. That's a lesson I'll never forget." And so, the legacy of the Stargazer lived on. Woven into the fabric of the village and carried forward by those who dared to dream. Under the endless sky, they found not just knowledge but a sense of wonder and belonging, a reminder that the universe, vast and mysterious, held a place for everyone. Lycaon's discovery of the ancient star map sparked an era of unprecedented curiosity in the village. Word spread far and wide, drawing scholars, wanderers, and dreamers from distant lands. What was once a quiet, secluded place became a vibrant hub of knowledge and exploration. Its nights alive with lanterns and telescopes. Its days filled with lively debates and collaborative study. Lycaon, with Selene's guidance and the support of the villagers, established the School of the Sky. The school, housed near the ancient temple at the mountain's peak, became a beacon for those seeking to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos. It wasn't just a place for astronomy, it embraced philosophy, storytelling, and even the arts, fostering a holistic view of the universe and humanity's place within it. One afternoon, as Lycaon was teaching a group of children how to use a rudimentary sextant, a stranger arrived in the village. She was dressed in a long cloak embroidered with symbols that Lycaon recognized as belonging to a distant land. Her hair, streaked with silver, framed sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to see more than what was in front of her. "I am Callista," she introduced herself, bowing slightly. "I've traveled far to learn from the village of the Stargazer." Lycaon, curious and cautious, welcomed her. "You're most welcome here, Callista. What brings you so far from home?" Callista's gaze shifted upward. "The same thing that brought you to the stars, a desire to know. But I've heard of something else, a discovery you made on the mountain. A map that might be more than it seems." Lycaon studied her carefully. "You've heard correctly. But knowledge of the map isn't something we share lightly. It carries a legacy of reverence and responsibility." Callista smiled. "I understand. I seek not to take, but to contribute. Perhaps my knowledge can aid in your understanding." Callista proved herself a valuable ally, bringing with her ancient texts and knowledge of celestial phenomena that few had encountered before. She worked closely with Lycaon and Aria, deciphering the intricate etchings on the obsidian sphere and comparing them to star charts from other parts of the world. One evening, as they pored over their findings in the school's library, Callista's voice broke the silence. "These symbols, they don't just chart the stars. They align with the cycles of time, eclipses, solstices, even the appearance of certain comets." Aria leaned closer. "You mean the sphere isn't just a map of the sky, but a calendar?" Callista nodded. "A celestial clock. Perhaps. It tracks patterns that occur over centuries, maybe even millennia." Lycaon's mind raced. "If that's true, then the sphere doesn't just tell us where we are in the universe, it tells us when we are. The implications were staggering. The sphere wasn't merely a relic of the past, it was a tool that connected the past, present, and future. With this revelation, Lycaon decided to call for a grand gathering of scholars and stargazers. Invitations were sent to neighboring villages and distant cities, urging those with knowledge of the stars to come and contribute. In the weeks leading up to the gathering, the village prepared tirelessly. The temple at the mountain's peak was cleaned and decorated, its walls polished to reflect the light of the lanterns. Food was gathered from the fields and the sea, and villagers worked together to ensure their guests would feel welcome. The night of the gathering was a spectacle. Hundreds of people ascended the mountain, their lanterns creating a river of light against the dark hills. At the temple, Lycaon stood at the center, the obsidian sphere gleaming beside him. "Friends," he began, his voice carrying over the crowd, "we are here to celebrate not just the stars, but the spirit of discovery that unites us. The sphere we found at this peak is more than an artifact, it's a reminder that knowledge is a journey, not a destination." The gathering became a festival of learning. Scholars debated theories late into the night, while artists painted constellations on the temple's walls. Musicians played songs inspired by the rhythm of the stars, and storytellers wove tales of gods, heroes, and the heavens. As the gathering reached its climax, Callista presented a new theory. "The markings on the sphere suggest that it points to a specific event," she said, addressing the crowd. "A celestial alignment that will occur in the near future, a time when the sun, moon, and stars will converge in a way that hasn't happened for thousands of years." The villagers and scholars listened in hushed silence as Callista explained. This alignment could mark a moment of great significance. Perhaps it's symbolic, or perhaps it holds some tangible effect on the earth. Lycaon felt a spark of both excitement and trepidation. "If this is true, then we must prepare," he said. "Not out of fear, but out of a desire to understand. The universe is speaking to us, and we must listen." In the months that followed, the village became a hive of activity. Observatories were built on the hilltops, and scholars worked tirelessly to calculate the exact timing of the alignment. Lycaon and Callista led the efforts, their partnership growing into a deep friendship founded on mutual respect and shared purpose. As the day of the alignment drew closer, anticipation filled the air. Villagers who had once cared little for the stars now looked up each night, their hearts filled with wonder and curiosity. The alignment occurred on a crisp, clear night. The sky an expanse of velvet black dotted with countless stars. The villagers gathered at the temple, their faces illuminated by the glow of lanterns and the faint light of the celestial sphere. As the moon reached its zenith, a strange stillness fell over the mountain. The stars seemed to shine brighter, their light casting sharp, almost otherworldly shadows on the ground. The obsidian sphere began to glow faintly, its surface shimmering with a silvery light. The crowd watched in awe as the celestial bodies aligned perfectly, their combined light forming a radiant beam that seemed to connect the earth and the heavens. Lycaon stepped forward, his voice steady despite the overwhelming sight. "This is not just an event of the stars," he said. "It's a reminder of the connection we share with the universe, a bond that transcends time and space." The alignment marked the beginning of a new era for the village. The event drew people from far and wide, turning the once secluded settlement into a place of pilgrimage and learning. Lycaon continued Myron's legacy, sharing his love for the stars while embracing the beauty of life on Earth. Callista chose to stay in the village, her quest for knowledge finding a home among kindred spirits. Together with Lycaon, she helped expand the school, ensuring that future generations would have the tools to explore both the cosmos and their own potential. As Lycaon stood on the hill one quiet evening, gazing up at the stars, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The universe, vast and mysterious, was no longer a distant dream. It was a living, breathing part of the village and a part of him. Years passed, and Lycaon's name became as cherished as Myron's. The village flourished, its identity inseparably tied to the stars above. Yet, even as Lycaon grew older, his spirit of discovery never faded. One night, under a sky glittering with countless stars, Lycaon sat alone on the hilltop. The obsidian sphere rested beside him, its faint glow a constant reminder of the mysteries it still held. The air was cool, the breeze gentle, and the village below was quiet, its lights twinkling like a reflection of the constellations above. As he gazed upward, a new thought took root in his mind. "The stars have always been there," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "But perhaps we've only begun to understand their story. What if there's more than maps, alignments, and patterns? What if the universe itself is alive, waiting for us to ask the right questions?" His musings were interrupted by the soft sound of footsteps. Turning, he saw Callista approaching, her cloak wrapped tightly against the night's chill. She carried a lantern, its light casting a warm glow over her face. "You're thinking about what's next," she said, sitting beside him. Lycaon smiled faintly. "I can't help it. The stars always seem to ask more of us. They pull at something inside, as if they're inviting us to follow them." Callista studied him for a moment. "Then why don't we?" Lycaon turned to her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, her voice steady, "we've spent so much time looking up from this hill, this mountain, this village. But the world is vast, and the stars are everywhere. What if it's time to take what we've learned here and explore further?" Her words hung in the air, a challenge and an invitation all at once. In the days that followed, Lycaon shared Callista's idea with the villagers. Many were hesitant, unwilling to leave the home they had built and the legacy they had cultivated. But others, younger and eager, saw the opportunity for adventure. "If the stars can guide us here," a young stargazer named Theras said, "then they can guide us wherever we go." Serene, now frail but still sharp, called Lycaon to her side one afternoon. "You've done more than Myron or any of us could have imagined," she said. "But Callista is right. The stars are calling you to more. You must go, and you must take others with you." Lycaon felt the weight of her words. "And what of the village?" he asked softly. Selene's smile was bittersweet. "The village will thrive. It is no longer just yours or Myron's, it belongs to all who find meaning in the sky." On a crisp autumn morning, Lycaon, Callista, and a small group of villagers set out. Their destination was unknown, but their purpose was clear: to explore the world and its skies, to seek out new mysteries, and to uncover the stories waiting to be told. They left behind the temple, the school, and the obsidian sphere, entrusting them to the next generation. The villagers who stayed watched the group disappear over the horizon, their lanterns bobbing like tiny stars against the dawn. That night, as the villagers gathered on the hilltop, Theras addressed them. "Lycaon and the others have gone to follow the stars. But their journey is also ours. We remain connected, no matter where we are, because we all look up at the same sky." The villagers lay on their blankets, gazing upward. The constellations seemed to shine brighter that night, as if offering their blessing to both those who stayed and those who journeyed on. Far from the village, Lycaon and his companions made camp under a canopy of unfamiliar stars. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the crackling fire cast flickering shadows on their faces. Callista traced constellations with her finger, her voice carrying softly over the group. "Do you think we'll ever find the answers we're looking for?" she asked. Lycaon stared into the fire, then looked up at the vast, endless sky. "Maybe the stars aren't meant to give us answers," he said. "Maybe they're meant to keep us asking questions." As the group fell silent, lost in thought, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Lycaon smiled, his heart full. The journey was only beginning. And above, the stars continued to shine, watching over those who dared to dream. You've just listened to the story, The Stargazer's Journey. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale, please like and subscribe to our channel, Serene Tales, so we can continue bringing you more calming and enchanting stories. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest uploads. And if this story brought you a sense of peace, why not share it with someone you care about? Thank you for joining us tonight. wishing you sweet dreams and a restful night ahead.